Thank you very much, Cyril. Let me just share my screen and we'll get started. Okay, welcome colleagues to the February meeting of the Global Coalition to Address Synthetic Drug Threats, Sub-Working Group 1.1 on manufacturing. I have a few administrative announcements to get us started this month. First, I want to update you on the private sector engagement plan, which we committed to discussing at this month's meeting. The coalition is going to foster private sector partnerships at the national, regional, and international levels. And we are going to be looking at 6 industries in particular over the next several months. They are the chemical industry, the shipping industry, consignment, social media, e-commerce, and the banking industry. There are 2 other industries which we feel are important, but we will look at in the future. They are first, the pharmaceutical industry, and second, artificial intelligence industry. Now, to engage them, we are looking at a 6-part program. And so the first initiative will be to once again establish national dialogues between coalition governments and private sector companies beginning in the month of February. We are also looking at establishing specialized working groups. And the United States held its meeting with coalition, with private sector companies on the 9th of February. We brought social media together in an alliance to prevent drug harms, where we had Snap, Meta, and Discord participate in discussions on how to support public health and protect online users. Secondly, INCB is going to be hosting March 5th through 8th, a Tech Against Trafficking event in Vienna, Austria. Now, the third way that we're looking at that collaboration with the private sector is through a website exchange of experiences, similar to civil society. Beginning in the month of February, we will be inviting private sector companies to share their experiences, and we will be posting that information on our website. Additionally, between April to September, we're looking for the private sector partners to share recommendations with us, which we will also encapsulate in a document that we will post on our website. Then between April to July, we will be exploring at the discretion of the co-chairs, the participation of select private sector companies in certain working groups, again, based on the discretion of co-chairs. And finally, we will be looking, beginning in April, for private sector achievements to also be posted on the website. Now, I also want to share a bit of the process for recommendations and what we're coming up to in March when we have our meetings, our working group meetings. I want to highlight that this is the final meeting of the 2nd phase of the coalition on sharing best practices and models. We have received many requests for additional presentations from many governments. Thank you for that. We will be speaking with the co-chairs actually this week on Wednesday to determine how to incorporate those over the coming months. So if you are interested in presenting over the coming months, please reach out to us at the email address at the bottom right hand of your screen, syntheticscoalition@state.gov. I also want to share that the co-chairs have received a draft list of recommendations. You participants should have also received that draft list through the calendar invite for the March 6 and 7 meeting. So please review those. We will be discussing those recommendations on March 6th and 7th, and then we will be posting those on the website. You are encouraged to share the recommendations within your government in advance of these meetings and come to the meeting prepared with any edits, or once again, you can email us at the address to the bottom right with any recommendations that you have. I want to highlight that these recommendations are going to be finalized March 6th and 7th, but it's important to note that governments are not required to implement all of the recommendations, although certainly we hope that they would. Also, the recommendations are not meant to serve as an exhaustive list, so you may have additional recommendations outside of these lists as well. If you're not able to submit your recommendations in time for the March 6th to 7th meeting, you may also continue to post the recommendations on our website using the interactive feature that will go live in the coming weeks. Now I want to bring this to a close by explaining a bit about the difference between recommendations, initiatives, achievements, and outcomes. At the moment, we have about 39 recommendations, which are very broad in nature, and those will then lead to concrete initiatives, which again can be either a project, or it can be an action, or it could be a policy. And then from those initiatives, we will be moving into achievements. Between the period of April and July, we're looking for measurable progress in making advancement with the initiatives. We will classify those as achievements. And then we will be tracking over the coming years the further successes and outcomes that will come out of that. So concretely, what measures will we be able to look at that show progress with regard to the recommendations? How does this work in practical terms? Well, a recommendation might be, let's say, adopting an innovative technique for drug data collection. Some initiatives might be, for example, the web app Assist that we adopt, which is a screening tool, or a wastewater analysis project. Well, what could be the achievements? Well, during the months of April to July, we could conduct assessments in 10 countries with the online Assist, or, for example, we could do some training and mentoring of 8 countries through wastewater analysis. Now, the outcomes will come into the future, which will be that new drug trends can be detected, or that policy decisions are informed by the data. And so there we see sort of measurable progress based on the recommendations. I want to highlight that the initiatives are now posted and available on the initiatives menu. They are not all there. We are slowly posting them as we review. We have received about 120 of them. So we are about halfway through the initiatives list, but we are continuing to post them every day on the website. If you click on one of those initiatives, you will see the description, the background. Most importantly, at the end, you will see contact information for those international organization representatives that manage these initiatives. Please reach out to them and let them know if you are interested in participating in any particular program. Now, I also want to highlight that just as the sort of disclaimer says at the top of that website, just because you do express interest does not mean that there will be necessarily resources available for the implementation of these programs. We are at this moment just collecting an expression of interest, and then we'll be working with the international organizations, international donors, and the interested countries to see how we can make these programs possible. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Thank you very much for bearing through the very long announcements. And we're going to turn it over now to our friends, our co-chairs for today's session, Monika Shishpatra, our friend from India, and Dulat Mukumatrikumov from Kazakhstan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for all the announcements. And I'm really looking forward to a very nice and conclusive session in 6th and 7th, I believe, of March. So that would be really nice. Thank you. Respected co-chair, Mr. Dulat, Deputy Head, Department of Counter Drugs Crime, Kazakhstan. And dear participants, a very good morning to all of you. Today's session is very relevant and significant in supply reduction strategy, particularly with respect to the denial of access to precursor chemicals by the drug traffickers. The precursor chemicals form the backbone of synthetic drug production. However, we all know that the precursor chemicals have dual use in medical and multiple industrial fields. India has always been very observant and proactive in containing the diversion and trafficking of precursor chemicals. Government of India had enacted a special law called the NDPS, the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Regulation of Controlled Substances Order 2013 to regulate and monitor all activities related to precursor chemicals, including export and import. In fact, I'm happy to share with everyone that recently there were amendments and changes in regulation, and online B2B platforms and social media was also included in this order. So it has been made mandatory for such B2B platforms and other platforms to periodically report to the government of the advertisements of precursor chemicals being published on their platforms. I believe there, I believe that this 3D mechanism of detection, disposition, and disposal of precursor chemical plays a very important role in containing any pilferage and seizure of drugs as well as precursors. We need to closely monitor and regulate the chemicals which pave the way for production of designer precursor chemicals to produce synthetic drugs. India has also envisaged a comprehensive mechanism for pre-trial disposal of drugs. Now, Government of India has also given emphasis on public-private partnership in containing drug trafficking. Recently, Central Bureau of Narcotics has signed a MOU with Chemical Industry Association for voluntary participation in containing any pilferage and diversion of chemicals for illicit use. And I think one of the speakers, Rajesh Nandan sir, is going to talk about it because I think he's the one who has drafted most of it. So I think he's the best person to tell us. Now, this voluntary code of conduct established a common system and methodology to be voluntary, followed by the manufacturers to prevent diversion. With that, I would like to thank, and we would like to see the presentations. Thank you so much.
Доброе утро. Меня слышно?
Да, пожалуйста, продолжайте.
Алло, доброе утро. Меня все слышно хорошо?
Да, мы вас слышим, пожалуйста, продолжайте.
Да, извиняюсь, я по видеосвязи подключиться не могу. Я просто нахожусь на, так скажем, на работе, в машине. У нас сегодня для информации. Для начала, конечно, я всех приветствую. Моника, Райан, я всех приветствую. Еще раз повторюсь, я просто нахожусь сейчас на работе, в машине. У нас сегодня, как раз сегодня, стартовала широкомасштабная операция на нашей территории Республики Казахстан по борьбе именно с незаконным использованием прекурсоров и, так скажем, использованием оборудования. Но то, что моя коллега с Индии только что довела нам информацию по поводу тех мер, которые они принимают по борьбе с незаконным изготовлением и использованием прекурсоров, изготовлением синтетических наркотиков. Тоже очень интересно было послушать. Хотелось бы сказать, что буквально также в конце прошлого года наша страна по инициативе нашего департамента по борьбе с наркотиками внесла законопроект, который одобрен был, так скажем, правительством. Мы внесли еще порядка 50 новых оборудований, которые используются при изготовлении синтетических наркотиков. Как вы знаете, у нас есть большие протяженные границы с соседними странами, с которых бывает завозят нам прекурсоры и оборудование. Это вот такое маленькое вступление. Следующее слово я хотел бы предоставить спикеру, который выступит на тему программа по обороту оборудования, которое используется при изготовлении синтетических наркотиков. Спасибо.
Thank you so much. So we are going to turn it over to, I see Inshik Sim on findings related to the chemical seized in several countries and the assessment carried out for their disposal. Over to you, Inshik.
Hello, Brian. Hi, everyone. It is my great pleasure to be a part of this sub-working group 1.1 manufacturing group. Today I have prepared a very short presentation on our project on safe disposal of drugs and chemicals in Southeast Asia. I will focus on Cambodia because we have advanced more than the other country for the time being. So without further ado, let me share my screen. I hope that it works perfectly from the get-go.
And we can see your screen. You may want to move it into the presentation mode, Inshik.
Is it good now?
Is it? It's good. Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you very much. So, okay. So it's frozen on my computer. Don't know why. Let me try again.
And we can see the PowerPoint, but it's on a smaller screen as a thumbnail or as a thumbnail basically. So it's not in the presentation mode right now.
Okay. Oh, it's not moving. Sorry, it's not.
Yes, and now
Moving
we
to the
see it on
next
the
slide.
black screen only. It could be a slow internet connection. Are you in the application or in the browser, Inshik?
I'm on the browser.
It could be because you're in the browser, not in the application, so that could be the reason. Or it could be a slow connection.
Okay, let me just close it. Would it be possible to maybe perhaps start with Rajesh and I will try to get into the application? I'm sorry about this technical glitch. Is that okay?
No worries at all. Why don't we ask Rajesh Srivastava to present to us from the INCB Secretariat on the public-private partnerships with the chemical sector.
Thank you, Brian, and good morning, everybody. Inshik, take your time with figuring out the technical issues. I'll hold the fort for the next 15 minutes. yeah. Okay, so let me now try to share my screen, and I hope I am successful in doing so. And there you go.
And we can see your screen. Go ahead, please.
Well, let me just knock off this one that you don't want to see on the screen, okay? All right. So industry cooperation and public-private partnerships for preventing illicit drug manufacture. If you were there as part of my presentation on the January 17th meeting, you would have heard me allude a bit to this segment because this is one aspect which we believe from the INCB side that is extremely critical for all our efforts. We have been trying to schedule substances, and we know that scheduling is extremely successful because that provides a legitimate basis for countries to monitor substances and so on. But we also know that this is just the tip of the iceberg. The traffickers are never confined to the substances that are scheduled. And if that is the case, we need to go and think of something beyond regulation. And that is where the whole concept of partnership with industry kicks in. So, and really, the idea for voluntary cooperation with industry stems from the 88 Convention itself. If you look at Article 12, paragraph 9A of the 88 Convention, what it would tell you that all governments are supposed to monitor substances in Table 1 and Table 2. And one way of monitoring those substances is actually to speak to the industry that manufacture it, import it, export it, or deal with those substances in any other manner. And those industry, mind you, have this obligation to actually report to the competent national authorities any suspicious orders that they see, because they are literally the first point where a trafficker might want to reach out to access chemicals that he's going to use for illicit drug manufacture. And if they then report back to the governments have a very useful, number one, an information base as to who actually is seeking chemicals which are sort of suspicious in nature, or this transaction might be suspicious in nature. and also, in fact, put in other monitoring mechanisms in place. And it could be through the customs system that they have. It could be through the trade data that they have. So it provides very, very useful inputs to governments, and that is why. That is why so much of importance is placed on it. But as I was saying to you in the very beginning itself, this is just the tip of the iceberg. What we've seen in the course of the last decade or so, that there is increasing use of substances that are not under control. And we variously refer to them as designer precursors, sometimes this is pre-precursors, or even related substances or derivatives. So in very simple words, what it means is that you have an extremely small change in the chemical structure of a particular substance, which is then easily reversible, right? And the minute that you have this small change in the chemical structure, you create a substance which is not under international control. And therefore, you're free to carry on your activities with a very small chemical engineering. And this is why, as you know very well now, the international community has been struggling with this issue. We've had various policy initiatives. From the INCB side, there was this options paper which recommended to governments what actions they could take on this. We've got tools, and we have had other sessions in which Pen Online Lite was discussed. PICS is often be discussed. But then something recently that we started to do was that, hey, we believe that governments are actually well aware of the substances that they do control. But are they equally aware of the substances that they do not control, but which also could easily be used by traffickers? And those sort of chemicals could come from an array of industries. So typically we look at chemical industry or we look at pharmaceutical industry, but then there could be some research and development services. There could be producers of fine and specialty chemicals. There could be a whole different set of industries which we need to look at. And the idea is really that unless governments know about this range of substances that can be manufactured in their country, they would not be able to engage more and try to stop such innocent manufacturers from being tapped for illicit purposes. A very quick walkthrough about some of our old tools and publications from the INCB side on public-private partnership. If you scan this QR code that you see on your screen, it will take you to a window on our website where we have a list of all of the array. I think, Brian, good job, you're doing it already. This is the complete suite of our tools on public-private partnership that we have. It's a very rich reservoir of documents, of initiatives that have already been made available to member states. Some of them, as you want to navigate further, some of them are actually on the public space itself. But some of them you will probably have to log into the secure portal for obvious reasons, and then be able to access them. And I'm sure some of them you have already done this exercise. So, and this is one of the recent brochures that we have. It was a brochure that we already had for some years, but it's a small compilation of what public-private partnerships is all about. Why do you need it? How does that link to the sustainable development goals? The challenges that you see, and so on and so forth. I will not labor much on these tools right now. It's up to you to see and navigate. And I'm sure you're going to find it extremely, extremely interesting. And this is again a guideline that we developed. It's not a recent one. In fact, we developed it for the first time in 2009. And it's since then that INCB has been talking about the critical role of industry and voluntary cooperation with the private sector for preventing illicit drug manufacture. So this literally talks about a code of practice, a set of do's and don'ts, which governments can use to speak with the industry. And I know that a lot of governments have actually used those. Monica kindly referred to a memorandum of understanding which the Central Bureau of Narcotics in India has developed with the Indian Chemical Council. And I know that they have used this voluntary code of practice that we have developed from the INCB side to engage with industry. In the end, the ultimate objective is that industry should be having the knowledge as to what possible chemicals can be used for illicit drug manufacture. And armed with this knowledge, should they get a order or an inquiry from which is suspicious, and the industry is the best agency themselves to know what is suspicious and what is not. And if they do get that, then they actually report that back to the government. And the government's responsibility is actually to provide a focal point or a nodal point to enable this two-way transaction with the industry. Also, of course, the government's responsibility is to educate the industry about the latest developments in this area, the new chemicals that have been encountered, the modi operandi, and so on and so forth. Then we have a practical notes, again, how to quickly implement the guides. It's all very user-friendly. It has annexes. It has this preparatory steps that governments could take, the voluntary ways to voluntarily engage private partnerships and so on. And in fact, this concept of end user declaration. So we say that it's important for industry to know their clients. So KYC norm is something which is very, very important. And as part of the KYC, there's something called the end user declaration. What is the use to which the chemical that is being sought is going to be put to? Sometimes it takes a mandatory form. Certain governments have this requirement in their law built in, that the users actually have to produce an end user declaration. But we also know of countries that have this on a voluntary basis. A quick guide, again, I know that I'm slightly behind time here, so let me just jump now to some of our recent initiatives. The first one, and this is actually not the first one, but the limited international special surveillance list, and we speak of this several times because this is the catalog of substances that we see are not under international control, but we see increasingly being used in illicit drug manufacture. And the basis for compiling information into this ISSL comes from you, from the governments. It comes from you that you share either through your Form D, through your statistics, or you share as incidents through the Precursors incident communication system. And we try to compile those. And what we did back in 2018, was it? Or even, yes, 2018 or 2019, that we added related substances. This is something that we're talking about, the derivatives, the closely related substances, the esters, the ethers, and so on. And that also we try to indicate in the ISSL. So ISSL has as a part actions to be taken by government, as you see in this red circle, as also actions to be taken by the industry, both side engagement. So this is a very useful tool for public-private partnership. Again, vis-a-vis knowledge of more and more chemicals, we have this Precursors chemical monograph, a complete compendium about close to 100 substances, which also governments could use to inform and educate their industry. Very recently, in 2021, we actually brought up a compilation of the best practices in this area. A lot of governments have done excellent work, and this compendium of national practices related to public-private partnership that you see on the screen has examples from Canada, Australia, China, France, Germany, India, Switzerland, Tanzania, and the United States of America. All of these governments have kindly shared how voluntary cooperation with the chemical industry has successfully worked in their engagement. And from there, already we can see certain best practices which other governments which have a keen interest in this area would like to follow. But again, building on the fact that knowledge of industry is extremely critical, in 2022, we brought up this global review of categories of industries. So this goes much beyond Table 1 and Table 2 substances. In fact, in a way, it looks at Table 1 and Table 2 substances. It looks at ISSL chemicals and it sees where other industries have connects with those categories of substances. So if you see all those, I think there are 11 categories of substances that we've already, or industry that we've already pinpointed. So even the petrochemical industry, chemicals and pharmaceuticals obviously are no-brainer. They're directly used. Producers of fine and specialty chemicals, R&D sectors, tool manufacturers or contract manufacturing, that is very, very critical. These are industries that would manufacture literally anything. So they could, you could reach out to a contract manufacturer and say, hey, this is the substance that we want. Sometimes the person that is placing the order, in fact, provides us a raw material for the same, or often not, they would say, hey, you come up with scratch and you bring up this substance that I need for it. And this substance which a order for is being placed for contract manufacture could well be an intermediate substance, that is leading up to the manufacture of the ultimate precursor, which the trafficker is going to use. So knowledge of existence of such industry in a country is extremely important. So we've had this, and we've also, I think in the INCB's report, which some of you may have already seen, we're encouraging all governments to carry out an assessment, or we now use the word mapping, of the existence of such or maybe other categories of industries which they deem relevant in their local immediate context, whether they are present in their country or not. So this is a guidance for the mapping initiative, and that we expect, and we really encourage governments to do at their own level. But for certain countries, we've actually begun to work with governments themselves. The first in this series was India, where a mapping exercise took place already. A report has been shared with the government of India, and they're working on it. So the idea is that INCB engages a consultant locally recruited from the country in which this mapping is being carried out, so that the local knowledge is there. And then using the tools and resources that INCB already has, a mapping for those categories of industries is carried out. And then we engage with the governments, put up a draft with the governments, give them a draft, and seek their inputs on it. Because once the government agrees, and that is the critical next step in this area, once you know that this is the sort of industry that is present, the next step is to engage with those industry sectors, make them aware, have MOUs, voluntary codes, and all of that. Maybe a set of standards that you could have asked the country to do that. Hey, they would not function in anything less than that level of standard. So India was the first, and then we worked already with Germany and Switzerland. Again, this is report is now being is in the stage and it is being shared with the governments. Canada is ongoing. United States of America is next. We are in talks. China is about to start. Turkey is about to start. Brazil has shown great interest, and there are other countries that we would want to speak with. Now, towards the end of this year, we intend to have a global conference with countries that have participated in these initiatives of the mapping, as also countries that have keen interest in this area. And we want to put all of them together. We want countries to share their experiences. Already we see some best practices emerging. We see some in our past publications, those compilations that have come up. So, and we want all those information, the best practices, etc., to be shared in this global conference, and see what we can agree to at an international level as a real active, engagement in the industry at a global level, and see what we can do it internationally. So we would be sending out the invite, of course, later in the course of the year to all of you. And we really hope for your active engagement, not just with the international conference, but before that, with the industry mapping initiative. Thank you so much. I'll stop sharing my screen here, and I'm sure there would be some interested parties for question and answer, which I would take at the end of the session. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rajesh. That was an excellent presentation. Let's see if Inshik is prepared. We'll turn it over to Inshik for his presentation now.
Hello, hi. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Yes, great. Let me just share this time. Hopefully it works. Once again, sorry for the glitch.
And we can see your screen. You may want to move it into the slideshow mode, please.
Does it work?
It works, but we can see it on a small screen. You may want to go to the top of your screen, click slideshow, and then go to the presentation mode.
Is it
To
okay?
start from beginning. No, we see a black screen right now, unfortunately.
Okay, let me try again. Please work. Still a small screen, I guess.
It is still a small screen. The best option would be to click slideshow and then from beginning, and we will see what happens. Now we can see it on a little bit bigger screen. Brian, do you think we can continue with this setup? Just to be on the safe side, because if we troubleshoot more, we may mess it up.
Sure.
Thank you. Inshik, please go ahead.
All right, my apologies. I don't know what happened exactly, but the sometimes it happens. Today I'm going to talk about the safe handling and disposal of seeds, drugs, and chemicals in Southeast Asia. I mentioned earlier that we've been implementing this project in the region about a year now. We start with Cambodia and then followed by Philippines and Laos. There are 3 countries been supported by UNODC on this matter. Let me start with a short video clip to explain this project itself.
And does that video have any audio? Because we're not getting any audio right now. And in order
Audio
to
is
get
not coming out.
Audio is not coming out. What you need to do is to stop sharing and then go to the bottom, then restart sharing. When you click the green share button in the bottom left-hand corner, there is going to be a button that is called Share Audio, and then you need to select that button, and then you will be able to play the audio. And ironically, now we can see it on the big screen in the slide mode.
That's great. Okay, let me go back to the. Okay, I hope that it helps to understand the overall the background and also the elements of this disposal project. So there are mainly 3 I would say outcome. The first one is about basically assessment of the legal framework and capacity in supported countries. Second one is basically building a planning to how to dispose those seeds, drugs, and chemicals. We also build in the capacity building elements when we work on these disposal together with our counterparts. The third one is basically promoting the knowledge sharing among supported countries that are at the moment in Latin America and as well as Southeast Asia. So while we've been implementing this project, we've been able to observe some common challenges. The first one is the inadequate information and improvised site management. And also there are some of the storage conditions for those chemicals being there for a long time without proper management. And third one is improvised warehouse with exhausted storage facilities. And the last one is we were able to observe that some of the chemicals been showing a very severe the damage and starting to leaking and then causing some environmental hazard. So in the region, we've been supporting 3 countries, Cambodia, Laos, and the Philippines. And at the moment, we have finished our assessment in Cambodia. And this report came out about a month ago. It's non-public because of some of the sensitive information included in this. But nonetheless, there are 4 main elements of this report. One is the legal framework analysis. Second one is about the current status of seized material. The third one is hazard assessment. Fourth one is recommendations. And today I'm going to focus on the hazard assessment. UNODC visited the 15 sites in Cambodia between late December 2023 and early January 2024. And we came up with the risk assessments and that may bring some risk when it comes to actually dispose those chemicals. And we also came up with the recommendations. This photo was took when we were there in late December. One of the sites shows basically the roof is all gone. Roof was all gone. It happened apparently about a year ago that there was a chemical explosion, and then this has brought this severe damage into the building. And unfortunately, there is one officer who was tasked to guard this site, and he was located about 10 meters away from this building. And on that day, according to him, there was a heavy rain, and we suspect this rain met with some of the chemical inside, basically hydrochloric acid, and it has brought some chemical reactions and has brought this explosion. Luckily, he wasn't severely damaged, but he reported to us that he had a little bit of a headache and some uncomfortable feeling for breathing for some time. So he didn't die, but this could have been a really serious challenge for the law enforcement officers who were there. And we also look at all the sites. There were in fact 21 sites was seized by Cambodian authorities since mid-2022. However, some of them were kind of merged with the other sites. So we looked at basically 16 sites, and we were able to map out by 3 standards. One is high-risk site. There were 3 high-risk sites. We believe that it would be ideal to be disposed within 3 months. And there is 2 medium-risk sites and 11 low-risk sites. And I want to focus on the 2 sites that we believe that is high-risk sites. One of the criteria to adaptive for us to conduct the risk assessment on those sites were, first one is the types and conditions of those chemicals. And second one is we also looked at the surroundings where there are any like schools or residential area in proximity to this seized site. And then we also look at the controls in place, whether there are like any security measures around this seized site. And the first one is the availability of medical facilities around in case there is any explosion, or when the hazmat team go in and try to dispose those. And because we may also encounter some hazardous situations, then there should be medical facilities around. So those are the 4 elements that we looked at in the major criteria. I want to introduce one site. It's in the warehouse in Phnom Penh. Basically, there were 150,000 liters of different chemicals and kilograms were seized. And you can see this is the Google map, basically, that you can see that there's a mark where the site was found. But this site, the site rear boundary is within only 5 meters of multiple residential premises. That's why we believe that it is a really requires urgent disposal of this chemical inside this storage site. And you can see at the entrance, there is a obvious chemical leakage as evidenced by this staining at the warehouse entrance. Because of that, it was even very difficult to open this door. And we worried that if we try to open with a brute force, actually this door may fall from the top. So we could not really fully open it. And once we opened it and we looked at inside of this storage site, that you can see that also there's been sustained some damage due to chemical corrosion inside the buildings. There is a potentially another explosion because of this the chemical inside this storage site. And one other thing that we noticed that there's a venting chemical creating some consistent hazardous atmosphere. When we open this door, and we can see that there is a really I would say the haze inside and very strong odor of those chemicals. It's been sitting here with the direct suns coming in from this roof now being corroded. It is a very dangerous situation. Not to mention again that there was a residential area just 5 meters away from the back of this chemical storage site. So this one needs some urgent action for disposal of those chemicals. Let me move on to the second site that we visited is in Kandal province, which is I think the west of the Phnom Penh. And that site, we were able to see about 66,000 liters and kilograms of this chemical. And there was also, when Cambodian reported to us, we didn't receive this hydrochloride gas cylinder. When we went there were actually hydrochloride gas cylinder as well, but we could not really count them all because, again, the situation inside was quite dangerous. Without proper without proper PPE, we could not fully get in and then count the number of those gas cylinders. This site is also categorized as a high risk site because of that the school is around about 200 meters from the north, and again also there's numerous houses around this warehouse, as you can see in the map. These are the gas cylinders we found at the site, and there is some obvious signs of this corrosion, particularly around the bell, which could leak these gas inside of the cylinders. And also again on the top, on the right photo there, you can see there's extensive corrosions already have occurred on the roof, potentially leading to roof failure. And again, we were able to see some haze out of this, some of the chemicals stored in this warehouse. Especially this site has large quantities of bromine, and then our assessment that this is, although has not been really formally tested, but because of the smells and everything, we believe that the bromine has been leaking. There are the glass bottles of bromine has been basically broken, and then this has caused some of the very strong odor inside the building. And there is another risk, not only about the environmental hazard, I would say, the theft. We were able to observe that there's one site that has magnesium chips, and we were not able to see these magnesium chips. We visited this site in 2022. We were able to see these magnesium chips, but when we visited again, in early 2024, these are all gone. And we inquired this Cambodian authority, where are they, basically? And they believe that this has been basically stolen from the site because the guard around there is not really strong at nighttime. So to conclude, based on our observation on those sites, and you might wonder why Cambodia has not been really disposing these chemicals, although these are located, some of them are located just really close to the residential area, simply because there is no capacity. They were not able to, they were not sure what to do with those chemicals first. Even when they seized this chemical storage site and then also clandestine laboratories, they were not able to really map out well. That's why they requested us, and we visited the sites, and we came up with a assessment reports, and then we came up with this another basically this hazardous risk assessment report, that, and also some of the recommendation what should be done for those chemicals seized in the country. So it is not about just, our project is not about just disposing chemicals. We are not doing that. What we try to do is basically supporting them to dispose this chemical with our expert knowledge. And for Cambodia, we are considering to actually dispose hand in hand with them, because it's dangerous. We believe that our expert, together with their select members of the Cambodian government authorities, of officers, together in hands and hand to dispose those chemicals. And we wanted to target this the two sites that I show you, and there is another site which is also categorized as high risk site. I think we should really focus on those three sites first. And one other thing that I want to mention is that often that when it comes to supply reduction, we talk about drug seizures, chemical seizures, and the chemical regulatory matters. But this disposal side is not really, has not been really fully integrated into the supply reduction strategies. At least that's how I feel it when it comes to discussion of those issues. But because it's mainly seen as a national matter, which is true. However, some of the national authorities do not really have capacity to do so, or means to do so. So I believe that this presentation was helpful for you to understand some of the challenges faced by some of the developing countries in the world. And I assure you, I hope that there is any questions, then I will happy to answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Inshik. We just have a few minutes left before the next session, so I'll turn it over if there's any questions. If our co-chairs want to lead the discussion, turn it over to them. Thank you.